All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the CSLP 2024 Adventure Begins at Your Library webinar. My name is Beth Yates. I'm the children's consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office, and I will be your host, your presenter, and your question moderator today. A few announcements for you. First of all, to register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. You might note that the title screen here says training and roundtable, but the recording will only include the training portion of it, not the roundtable. I won't be recording that. And that's so that my roundtable attendees feel more comfortable to turn on their cameras and share with one another. Please note that any of the ideas shared, I will try to include as many of those as possible on the program idea website, which I will be explaining a little bit further during this training. So hopefully that will make more sense to you later. But the bottom line is they will be available for you there. So the webinar portion here is 1 hour. And so those watching the recording are eligible to receive 1 LEU. And instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube, or you can find those instructions on the Indiana State Library's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, your director or someone in HR should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. One more note, I think most of you are from Indiana, but a couple folks might be from other states, or folks from other states might stumble upon this recording. So if you're from another state, you will need to contact your state library to discuss whether you have access to the CSLP materials, and you can check the CSLP website to learn who your state rep is under membership information and then state and territory representatives. If your state is not a statewide member, you can still join to gain access as an individual library for a nominal fee. But Indiana folks, you are all members, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. Okay, I think we are ready to jump into the presentation now. So let's do this. So again, in case you don't already know me, my name is Beth Yates. I'm the children's consultant at the Indiana State Library in our professional development office. That's me back when I worked at a public library. I've worked as a professional in the library world for 20 years now, and the first 12 of those were as a youth services librarian at a public library where we often use the CSLP themes. So I have a long history with CSLP. In my role at the Indiana State Library, I also happen to be the Indiana State representative for the Collaborative Summer Library Program. CSLP is the organization that comes up with all those common themes every year that many of you opt to use. And CSLP is a nonprofit that is run almost completely by volunteers. Those volunteers might be state reps who usually work at state libraries like I do, as well as public librarians across the US who are participating in committees or even sit on the CSLP board of directors. So state reps usually work at state libraries because they are the ones who often administer the program in their states. And the state libraries often cover the membership fees for all public libraries in their state. And that is what happens in Indiana. Indiana State Library covers those membership fees for you through LSTA IMLS funds. And so all Indiana libraries are members of CSLP, whether or not you opt to use the program any particular year. So that just means you have every right to weigh in with your opinions and let me know your requests and things. And I am your contact for all of that. And then I mentioned CSLP is mostly volunteers. There are only 2.5 paid employees at CSLP. There's an executive director, an administrative person, and a part-time person who oversees and edits the manual. And then everyone else is really volunteers, and it's run via committee and via the board. So speaking of those committees, here's a list of them. If you see something that you have an interest in or a strength in, I encourage you to apply to volunteer next fall. The call out for committee volunteers usually happens late August or early September, and I share that out on the Indiana Library listservs. And it will be posted on the CSLP website, of course, too, or you can always email me if you want more information. And this year, I'd like to give a shout out to Rachel Milburn at the Frankfort Public Library, who is co-chairing the theme and slogan committee this year, which is awesome. I love it when Indiana library staff are leaders at CSLP because that just means we have even more voice. Okay. So here is our agenda for today. I'm just going to touch really quickly on some basics to be aware of. I'm going to cover some of the 2024 program information and updates. I will spend most of the time, a good chunk of time, highlighting resources that you can use for program planning. And then I will be turning off my slide presentation. And those of you who are here live will have sort of that virtual roundtable discussion. And as I mentioned, or in case you missed it or you came in late, I will be asking you to share some program ideas with one another during that time. But as I mentioned, that also will not be recorded. So just a heads up, I'd like to give you plenty of warning. Okay, so we are going to start out talking about some of the basics of summer reading programs. And I know many of you have been doing this for years and years, but we also have more and more new folks joining us every year. So I just want to make sure that they can feel informed. And one of the questions that I often get is about what is required as far as reading programs go here in the state of Indiana. Indiana code just says that a library system shall offer a children's reading program for a minimum of 6 weeks at each fixed location annually. FYI, fixed location is a branch, not a bookmobile that moves, in case you're wondering what that meant. Are there any in the chat? Let me know. Are there any things here that surprise you or that are missing that you would think you should see here? How about the word summer? Do you see the word summer? No. So they removed the word summer a few years ago when they revamped this, just to make it a little more flexible for communities who were, at the time, there was that push towards balanced calendars, which meant a lot of summer breaks were getting shorter. And they wanted to make it work for those communities who maybe a 6-week summer program just didn't make a lot of sense. That being said, summer's still the most popular time to do summer reading or a reading program, but you don't have to do it all in the summer. So 6 weeks don't have to be consecutive. You could do 4 weeks, maybe just June is your busiest time. July is really slow because people go on vacation in July. So if that's the case, then you could do 4 weeks in the summer and maybe you do 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks in the winter, or maybe you do it during spring break and fall break, or whatever, again, works for you and your community. So you have that flexibility. The other thing that some folks point out to me is the fact that it says it's a children's reading program. And so, yeah, it's true according to the state code. It really only has to be a quote unquote children's program. What is generally assumed to be meant by the children's word there is school age. That being said, I really encourage, if your library has the capacity, that you do summer reading for birth through adult if you can, because there's benefits for every age group. I say this every year now, but no matter how you decide to do your program, I really want to encourage you all to start with a goal in mind. So why does your library offer summer reading? What are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to reach? What do you hope happens as a result of the program? What impact do you hope to have? You might have different goals for different age groups, and that is okay. Goals might include things like, maybe you want to reach some people who've never been into the library before. We want to maybe give some kids a chance to feel good about themselves and to boost their confidence in their reading skills. Or maybe you want to give the community a chance to come together and accomplish something. It doesn't need to be numbers related. And in fact, I really recommend that it's not just numbers related. We know from the pandemic that numbers don't always reflect the impact that we have and that they really aren't that reliable. So you're not a failure if you don't get hundreds of new participants each year. Please don't feel like a failure if it doesn't grow. Because sometimes it's more about the quality of the impact that we're having over the broad quantity of people that we're reaching. So anyway, I just hope that you'll take a look at your community, at what it needs, at your strategic plans, and have a conversation with your coworkers about these types of goals. And if it feels overwhelming to think about this type of goal, just start small, pick one thing you want to accomplish this coming summer, and try to start with that. If you're pretty new to planning for summer reading, I did put together this tutorial last year that highlights some of the major decision points that you should consider as you're planning. It's only about 11 minutes, and it's linked from the resource website that I will be sharing with all of you. If you're watching this is recording, by the way, the resource sheet will be linked on the Indiana State Library's archive training page for this webinar, so you'll be able to access it either way. But I will send it to those of you who are here today. Any questions about all of that stuff? I know I went through it pretty quick, but let me know before we move on. All right. Then we'll keep going. I'm going to talk now about some updates about the program year. So first and foremost, access to the CSLP programming manual is online again this year. We have moved to online only the past several years because it truly does provide you with the exact same and in fact more current access to materials and ideas than the flash drive did. You can download the manual in whole or in pieces and print it if you really want to, just like you could from the flash drive that we sent out for years before this. I know some folks still wish that we sent out paper manuals. We haven't done that for quite a long time, just because it's quite expensive to send those out. But if you want a print copy and printing it yourself is not going to work, although you're absolutely able to do that from the online website. It's possible to order one from the website, from the catalog online. They're not terribly expensive. So if that's something you really, really want, you can check that out. All right. So I actually created a video that walks you through how to access the online manual and to kind of navigate some of the major points. I have a resource sheet again that I will share more about later, but this video is linked on that resource website. So if you need it, you can get to it there. And of course, you will need a manual code to access that online manual. And I sent those codes out via email to library directors back in October of 2023. And at the same time, I had also sent out a form to the listservs so that other Indiana library staff could request it. I have sent it out to well over 200 people at this point that way. So hopefully you have it if you needed it. But I know things get lost, emails go to spam. It's too far down in your inbox. So if you can't find it, your director says they don't have it, please reach out to me and I will send it along. I also wanted to mention that the CSLP online store is open and has been shipping things out for a couple of months now. I like to mention the store because everything sold in the store, the profit from that goes back into stocking the store the next year with the goal of being able to improve what we offer each time. Like I said, CSLP is a nonprofit, so it's not all about making millions of dollars or something, which they're certainly not. But all of that money goes back into being able to set up the program for the next year. So just a few examples if you're curious about what's available this year and you haven't looked yet. This is one of the t-shirts. Of course, it's more in focus in real life. Sorry, my picture is a little blurry. That's one of the t-shirts. Here's another one. This one's already also available in light blue. And one of the examples of improvements that we've been trying to make, they've sourced softer, higher quality t-shirts this year. So they're a little thicker, they're a little softer, and just generally better quality. So check that out if that's interesting to you. This is one of my personal favorites. They have a hoodie, and you might think, I don't need a hoodie in the summer. But if you're going to do a winter reading program or you just want to wear it around town, I have one of these and I wear it all the time now. They might be changing that from Love My Library to some other kind of general library positive slogan here in the near future, but the hoodie should still be available. And then they have all the usual stuff, the window clings, the mobiles, the bookmarks, the stand-up displays, all that sort of stuff should be in there if it's something that you like to usually purchase. Any questions about the store or anything else from that last section? Okay. So let's talk about the artwork. First of all, this is one of my favorites. I love that Bigfoot guy. So the artist this year, the first one is Juana Martinez Neal. She's the artist for most of the kind of uh, younger looking artwork this year. You might know her Caldecott honor book, Alma and How She Got Her Name. She both wrote and illustrated that book. She also illustrated a number of other titles, including Fry Bread, which was the 2020 Robert F. Seibert medal winner. And the rest of the art was done by Robert Donnelly over on the right. He's a freelance illustrator and animator from Vermont, and his artwork is really vibrant and interesting. I really like it. He works mostly with paper clay and digital media. So these two kind of early literacy and children's kind of youth-centric posters, these are by Juana Martinez Neal. And she approached it from the angle that young children probably aren't going to be going out and doing lots of super adventurous things like, they might not be doing tons of mountain climbing or hiking or things like that, riding skateboards. However, they can have their own adventures through books, through reading, and through, of course, their imagination. So that's what she tried to depict with her artwork. That's why you can see some of the things that they are presumably imagining are the kind of lighter images, and then the kids are more bold. And Rob Donnelly did these two pieces, and they're a bit more vibrant. Even in person, they're more vibrant than on these slides, I think. I love how he incorporated books into a lot of his artwork. Both posters, of course, have it, but also a lot of the spot art, a lot of the clip art have books incorporated into them in some way. And then I just like to give everyone a reminder that you don't have to use all of these posters. You can absolutely choose just one of them or a couple of them that you think will work best for your library and your community. You're certainly never obligated to use all of the artwork. So hopefully one of these will be to your taste. Any questions about artwork? All right. I'm just going to, okay, let's talk about resources for program planning. I have mentioned that there will be a resource website that will be available to you. And so like I said, it will absolutely be posting it with the video on the ISL archive webpage. I will also send it out to you if you are attending live today. But I also just wanted to show you where you can find that resource page on our website because, again, maybe you want to get to it before I send you the email, or maybe you lose my email. So if I show it to you, hopefully it'll kind of ring a bell later on. So go to the Indiana State Library's website. You can just Google Indiana State Library. And then you are going to go to Services for Libraries over on the menu on the left side of the screen. Once you click on that, it opens up this page, Services for Libraries. And then you're going to look for Resources for Librarians Serving Youth. That's, if you kind of take a look at this web page, you can see there's a professional development column and a library development column. I work in the professional development office, and it's under my section, the youth services section. So that's where you're going to go. I also want to acknowledge, of course, summer reading is not just for youth, it's for all ages, but it's my thing. So it's in my section of the website. So you're going to go to Resources for Librarians Serving Youth, and that pulls up that website. And I'm going to just self-promote really, really quickly. Up at the top of the page, I want to point out the professional development opportunities for youth services staff, because there's a couple of shortcut links there that could be helpful for a lot of you. There is the youth services training opportunity page. That's where I try to kind of pull out some of the trainings I have coming up and put them all in one place for you so you can see what's coming up. There's also at the bottom of that page, there's some general resources for youth services staff. The next one down is the Indiana State Library's events calendar. So I've linked to that from there as a quick shortcut link. And then also there's an archive training website link there too. So I keep talking about how this will be posted on the archived training page. Well, this is a link to that page. And then as you continue down, that second section says Collaborative Summer Library Program. And that is where you'll find all of the links that will be relevant for you today. I'm going to make that a little bigger so you can see it better. So you can see the CSLP website is the first link. And then the second link there is the one that I keep talking about, Resources for Summer Program Planning. This is what that website looks like. It starts with some general resources. This is where you'll find both of those tutorials that I mentioned earlier, how to navigate the manual and also what to consider when you're planning summer reading. And then there's another link to the CSLP website there. There's the online store link you can find. And there's a few other things there that hopefully will be useful to you. And then as you continue to scroll down, you'll see a list of programming resources. These are all ones that I'm going to be talking about today. So if you don't catch them, if you don't write everything down today, no worries. You can come to this and you can get links directly to all of these things here. If you continue down a little further, you'll see related partner ideas. I'm also going to be talking about that today. So we'll get more into that. Over on the right, Adventure Begins the Year library related topics. I kind of brainstormed in advance for you some topics related to adventure. So if you are totally stumped and you're trying to kind of just come up with some general topics that would apply to adventure, you can come here and take a look. Summer food info, I'll touch on that later, is also, there's links there for you on that topic. And then as you continue down under other resources, one other thing I want to point out is the font guide for the 2024 program. I know a lot of you put together flyers and things for your own programs. And so you want those fonts so you can get to them here. They are also available in the online manual, but I pulled them out here for you so you could quickly access them in case you have trouble finding them in the online manual. They are always free fonts that are available on the internet. Okay, we're going to go back out to the CSLP section of the youth services page. And the next link I want to talk to you about is the summer program ideas for the current year link. There's my little arrow. I have been, as I mentioned, traveling around the state doing this training in person for library staff. All through December. I'm going to go back out starting tomorrow and do another 6 here in January. And at each one of those trainings, we have a roundtable discussion and we share program ideas. I collect those ideas and I post most of them to this website. And so here is what it looks like at the top. Again, there's kind of some shortcuts to some useful resources for you. As you scroll down on the page, you'll find the actual program ideas. And this is some ideas from last year. I just pulled this up because it was nice and full, although this year's is already starting to get full. And so you can see I separate them by age group. So there's all ages, preschool, school age, teen and tween, and adult. So they're separated in that way. And then other than that, though, they are really just a browsing list. So you can just kind of go through. I try to pull out terms to kind of be the title of the program to catch your eye. And then I provide whatever information I've been given by that librarian who has shared the information with me. If there's a link that they've included for a resource, I try to make sure that I include that link also. If you have an idea in mind already and you want to see if somebody else has done a program similar to it, and you want to see what they have, you can hit Control F, type in your keywords, and it will search the web page for that keyword. And so you can quickly find what you're looking for that way too. Otherwise, it's really just kind of a, jog your brain sort of list. And finally, I just want to point out the summer program ideas from past years, because this is such a great resource. Anytime you're stuck and you need new program ideas, there it is right there. It's right underneath the current year. Check out these lists from past years because you can do these year round. I always hear people want more trainings that give them program ideas. Well, here's a resource you can access anytime that includes hundreds of ideas from your peers. And they're probably much more creative than I ever could come up with myself. So do check it out. They're in a couple of different formats. Some of them are PDFs, some of them are Excel sheets, and some of them are web pages, but they're all linked, so you can kind of go by general topic. Okay. Other resources, back to the manual. This is the program manual for this year. We already discussed that you have digital access again this year. I really, really encourage you to peruse the manual. At the very least, take a look at the table of contents, because I think you'll find a lot of great ideas in here, many that maybe you already thought of, but you can come in here and you can, again, see what they're doing and see if there's something you want to add from the manual to your program, like a printable or worksheet, an activity, maybe one component of the program you could pull from the manual, even if you don't want to use the whole thing. You can view it two different ways. You can either view it by age. So if you only serve a very specific age group, say you're only the teen librarian, that's all you really care about, you can go right here and you can see it there. And I do see I have a couple of questions in the chat, and I will get to those in a little bit. I do see them though. The other way that you can view the table of contents is by chapter. And the chapter gives you kind of a rough categorization. And the different chapter headings this year are travel, adventures. There's nature, there's imagination, there's puzzles, scavenger hunts, and mysteries. There's close to home, which has been explained to me as being kind of like backyard adventures. And then In the Dark adventures. So those are kind of the general topics that are the programs are very loosely organized under. As it did last year, the manual also includes a guide to getting started for those of you who have never run summer reading before or who just want to maybe have a refresher on some best practices. There's information for each different age group. And then there's a couple of other cool things. Like this year, brand new is a school outreach toolkit put together by our outreach committee. So check that out if you think that that sounds useful to you. The next thing I want to mention is the CSLP Summer Symposium. It just completed its third year. It happened back on December 7th in 2023. So it is over for this year, but what it is it's run by CSLP, the Collaborative Summer Library Program. It's a free national virtual mini conference. It consists of 4 different sessions, which are each with 1 LEU. And the recordings are now available. So the recordings you can also, they're pre-approved providers, so you can earn LEUs if you watch them. Here's what the topics are: simplifying summer. There's one if you are completely overwhelmed by the manual. The manual chairs did this session on manual highlights, so they pulled out some of their favorites and talked about them. A lot of people found that really helpful. There's one on promotion, which is another one that I think a lot of library staff often ask about. How do we promote our programs effectively? And then there is one on partnerships, and in particular, outdoor partnerships. So those are all, again, linked from the resource page. They're also available on the CSLP website. So check those out if you think that they might help you out. Additional resources. The National CSLP organization does have their own Pinterest page. They last year updated it not until kind of the end of January, early February. So it's not updated for 2024 yet. You can see, obviously, this is 2023's Pinterest page. But if you're a Pinterest person, if you're still passionate about your pins, then check this out if you think that that could be helpful to you, because they link to a lot of ideas and things that some of them are related to the manual and some of them are not. This is the Indiana State Library's Indiana Young Readers Center kind of program guide. Suzanne Walker, who is the Indiana Young Readers Center librarian at ISL, she, for the past several years, has put together a cute little guide that includes some different activities and things that relate whatever the theme is for that year to Indiana in some way, because the Young Readers Center houses all of the books by Indiana authors and illustrators for youth. So that is her focus. That's what she's really, really in the know about and knowledgeable about. So she pulled one book for each age group this year. So again, that would be preschool / early lit, school age, teen and tween, and adult. She pulled one book for each age group, and she, by an Indiana author, and she gave ideas for how you could do a program or activities you could do related to the book. So check that out. Again, it's linked from the resource sheet, and she works hard on this stuff. So hopefully it can help you out. I also like to mention that Teaching Books, which hopefully you're familiar with it, but if you are not, Teaching Books is a database that is part of the Inspire collection of databases that the Indiana State Library provides. It's Inspire, all of those databases are free for all Indiana residents to use, and that includes Teaching Books. So Teaching Books and its affiliate, which has up to now been called Book Connections, but is now called Teaching Books for Libraries, just to get you extra confused. So Teaching Books has a school interface. It's kind of meant to be used in schools. Book Connections / Teaching Books for Libraries is meant for public libraries to use. But let me just tell you, they all lead to pretty much the same content. They just have a few terminology differences is kind of the main thing. So the point is, Teaching Books literally provides resources for helping you teach books. So there are author interviews, there are book trailers, there are discussion questions, there are all kinds of great stuff in there. And whether you go in through Teaching Books or Book Connections / Teaching Books for Libraries, if you go in either way, you will find the same resources. So if I was to search for one of these books you see on the screen in either of those databases, I would come up with the same results. So all this is to say that Teaching Books has taken the book lists created by CSLP for the different age groups, all except the adult, because they really don't have adult books in their database. They're all for younger kids. Yes, Teaching Books is through Inspire. Yes, Megan. They have taken those lists and they have just made sure that they have resources available, and they've all posted them in lists on the website, so they're quick and easy for you to access. So I wanted to let you know that those are there. Any other questions about Teaching Books or Inspire? I hope I didn't confuse you too much. Okay. Another thing, social media. There are a few groups on Facebook that are worth joining if you're there anyway and you're interested. First of all, CSLP has a page, like an organization page, that you can go and like and follow if you want updates and news. You can always do that. That's open to the public. But they have also created a programming specific group, which is the one on the top there. And people in there can share program ideas, ask for advice, etc. That one is a closed group, which just means that you have to request to join it, and then it will ask you a couple of questions. I think they are primarily geared towards, like what state do you work in? They just want to make sure you work at a library in a member state, because the whole thing is that they don't want the page to be open to the general public so that random people don't come in and, ruin it for everyone somehow, be trolls or something. Another closed group that is potentially worth joining if you're interested is the Programming Librarian Interest Group. That one is run by ALA. And again, you'll have to request to join. And I don't think you have to be a member of ALA in order to join it. I can't 100% guarantee that, but I don't think you have to be. And I always like to just mention StarNet STEM Activity Clearinghouse. Some of you might be familiar with it because I try to mention it whenever I have an opportunity, because it's a really, really wonderful resource, especially for STEM programs. There's full program descriptions included on a variety of different STEM topics you can search. It tends to be very heavy on space and earth science, but there are other things in there too, other STEM topics in there too. So you can search in the search box so you can see here I searched for water and came back with 66 different results. That's just an example. You can also narrow it down by all those different categories that you see on the right: age group, time that it takes, cost, difficulty, etc. So I just like to mention that. Anybody here ever use STEM Activity Clearinghouse? Let us know in the chat. All right, and then this is our very last section. So I'm just going to keep going unless I see a question pop up. I want to highlight, yeah, you absolutely should check it out. Yes. Oh, right. It's not summer specific, but definitely if you're planning to do anything for the eclipse, STEM Activity Clearinghouse is perfect for that. It's actually created by some of the same organizations that are working on some of the eclipse stuff. Yeah. Okay. So this final section, I want to highlight some potential kind of like partnery, additional ideas and organizations and things that could potentially benefit you, or just things to consider. So, first and foremost, some of you may have heard already of the Smoky Bear Reading Challenge. If you attended the outdoor partnerships session of the CSLP Summer Symposium back in December that I mentioned, they mentioned this in that. And I also sent out a few emails about it on the listservs. But if you haven't heard of it yet, so Smoky Bear Reading Challenge was created through the USDA Forest Service, who is kind of the Smoky Bear owner organization that uses Smoky Bear as their mascot. It is Smoky Bear's 80th birthday this year, and they wanted to celebrate it. So they worked with the Georgia State Library to develop this reading challenge that is really meant to complement Adventure Begins, to kind of fit in Adventure Begins, not necessarily replace it, although, of course, you can do whatever you want to. And by the way, just a little side note, did you know that his name is Smoky Bear? It's not Smoky the Bear. I had no idea. My whole life was a lie until I found that out. No, Bear is his last name. Smoky Bear. That's his name. Interesting. Anyway, so they came up with this challenge. So what is the challenge? Well, first of all, they have this online toolkit that has a lot of resources for you. Pretty much everything you should need to run the program is available online. They provide you with posters and flyers you can download and print, bookmarks you can download and print, a flat Smoky that you can put out and let kids color and cut out, take pictures with. Maybe you post them or send them to businesses in your town, and people have to go find them. You know, lots of things you can do with this flat Smoky. There is a reading challenge completion certificate if you decide that you want to use that for kids who do this challenge and complete it. There are coloring pages you can download and print. And then again, what is the program exactly though? Right? I know that's probably what you're all thinking. So the program, it consists really of these 2 pages. So over on the left, you can see the kids are asked to take a Smoky Bear pledge, which is basically you won't set forest fires, you won't play with matches, etc. The next section is that they are supposed to read 3 or more books on wildfire prevention or the environment. And there is a suggested list of books on the Smoky Bear website, or it says that they can pick their own. So you could always pull some from your shelves, put them on display, and people could pick them that way also. And then the third and final portion of this challenge is that they are meant to earn 4 badges. So I do badges in quotation marks because they're not physical badges. Each one of these boxes, there's 7 of them over on the right-hand page, represents 1 badge. Now, I think that if you use Beanstack or, oh my goodness, what's the other system? Read Squared? I think both of those have Smoky Bear graphics available in them now. So I guess they could potentially earn badges that way too. But all I have to do to complete a badge is do one of the things in the box. So to earn the tree exploration badge, all they have to do is find out the name of their state tree. And then they can check that off and they have completed that. So if you want to do the Smoky Bear Challenge as designed, this is what they will need to do. those things. You can provide them with these pages. You can give them that reading challenge certificate. Now, that being said, I think that a lot of creative libraries out there could look at some of these things and figure out how to incorporate them into their existing summer program. So if you're a library that allows, for instance, kids to do more than just read, they can also, do activities, color pictures, attend programs, things like that. You could potentially let them do some of the things in the Smoky Bear badge list as some of their activities. I think you can really get creative with this. I would say if you use any part of the program, make sure, and you don't use it as designed, and literally print these out and provide them. Be sure to give credit to the USDA Forest Service, the Georgia State Library, so that, all the time and effort that they put into this is credited. You'll definitely want to do that. That is just kind of also, I did notice you are supposed to not alter their graphics. So you could maybe just print out the second page and just provide that, or you could potentially use some of the ideas from that page for your own thing. Again, making sure to give credit to the USDA Forest Service. So I say go get creative. I'm interested to see what people do. When I send out at the end of the summer a survey from CSLP about how you use the program, I'm planning to include a question on there that asks whether you utilized any of these materials. But that will be really all the reporting that is required, if any, for this program, if you want to use it. Because the USDA Forest Service did ask us to let them know how many people or how many libraries were utilizing it. But if you have any questions, let me know. I see at least one person said that they like the traveling Smoky idea. Yeah, so that's great. I hope some of you can use it. All right, keep moving here. I also just want to mention that, of course, this is a great summer to potentially partner with your local state parks if you're in an area with any state parks near you. I did talk to somebody at the White River State Park here in Indianapolis, and they said, because I was like, is there a central contact that people can reach out to in order to try to book your nature center or have a speaker or something come? And they were like, unfortunately, you just have to reach out to your individual state park near you, because each one does different stuff and has different capacities for doing those things. So they did provide me with a link to the Indiana State Parks and Lakes website. I have linked to this on the resource page, and it includes all of the different state parks and phone numbers. So at least that's a starting place. If you do want to reach out to your park and you're not sure how to locate them, at least you got a phone number. I also wanted to mention Hoosier River Watch. This is essentially a citizen science program. It's run by IDEM, which is the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And it's a citizen science program that asks folks to test local rivers and water, bodies of water in your areas for different things, like fun stuff like E. coli. And then it teaches you also how to report that in their online system. And it just helps them monitor across the state all these different bodies of water. In order to participate in that, you do have to go through about an 8-hour training. And I learned about this because a library down south had done this. So I know it's possible for libraries to participate. You can see there's an online calendar on their website where they share their existing planned training dates. But you could also, on the resource page, I provide some contact information. You could try reaching out to them and see if they might want to do a training at your library. And then you could train up. It's mostly for adults and possibly teens. It's not for little kids. But this one, maybe you could organize a group of folks in your community who go out and do this together. Finally, the Nature Conservancy has a list of nature preserves. So I just want to remind you, like up north in particular, there's less state parks, but there are quite a few nature preserves you can see here on this map. So the Nature Conservancy has a list of all of those. And when you click on the title, the name of the park that's in green there, it will open up a little box and it gives you a little bit more information, including whether or not they are open to the public. So, some of them are closed to the public because they are truly a preserve. Other ones are open from dawn to dusk. So, might be good to know. Maybe you could lead or get somebody to lead a nature walk or something through one of these preserves if it's one that's open to the public. So, just wanted to let you know that those do exist out there. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention to you all is the Summer Food Service Program. I know this one is not adventure related, but it is something I like to remind folks of every year. Are any of you already summer food service sites? You can let me know in the chat if you are. There's kind of two levels that you can participate in for summer food service, which is a USDA program. And that is, you can either be the organization that finds the funding, organizes the funding, gets the food, packs them up, delivers them, or you can be the site. Libraries are usually the site where people can go and eat. It's for birth through 18. Usually the schools are the ones who are the ones who kind of pull the food together, and sometimes they do also act as the site where people can come and eat, but sometimes they deliver their food to other sites in the community just so it's a little more accessible to folks. Summer food service is available, I believe, to communities where you have 50% or more kids on free and reduced lunch, which is a lot of areas in Indiana, unfortunately. So it's very possible that many of you are in communities where this is something that can be done. It might be that maybe there's no need because there's other organizations filling this gap, but sometimes they are looking for more sites. So if you're interested, again, I link to these resources. It's run by the Indiana Department of Education here in Indiana. And so there's links to that website, and you can go and find more information and contact someone to see if your library is a good fit. We have a few people here. Okay. So one library is a food service site. Usually they're waiting to see if they're going to do it again this year. Another person says another organization in town does the summer food, and that's entirely possible. All right. And that concludes the training part of this webinar. But live attendees, please remain on the Zoom. Don't go anywhere. I am going to say goodbye to those watching the recording, though. So thank you for watching.